On behalf of Leeds Community Foundation and Give Bradford, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this first Open Grants briefing for 2024. Before we do get started, just wanted to make you aware that the session is being recorded. It's so that we can share it afterwards with people that can't make it today. If you do have a mobile phone nearby, please put that on silent as well and keep your mic muted until we get to the Q&A section at the end of the presentation. Also, you can feel free to ask any questions using the chat facility during the presentation if you wish to do so as well. So we're going to start off with some introductions. I'm Shahid Molvi, Head of Grants. I've got oversight and overall responsibility for the grant making function at the Foundation. And I also have a small and hardworking team that work on and deliver the various grant programs, some of which you'll be learning more about later on. So I'll just introduce you to the team. So firstly, Alex.
Hi everyone, I'm Alex Kupis. I'm the Senior Programmes Officer.
Laurie.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. I'm Laurie, I'm a Programmes Officer at LCF.
And Caitlin.
Hey everyone, Caitlin here and I'm Grants Administrator.
And we also have Jess Johnson from our comms team. Jess, do you want to say hi?
Of course. Hello everyone, I'm Communications Officer at Leeds Community Foundation and Give Bradford.
Brilliant, thanks so much. So lastly, but by no means least, we're into a brand new year, a new strategy in development as well, which should be ready by March, hopefully. I'm very, very happy and delighted to welcome our new Chief Exec, Steph Taylor, who's very kindly joined us to say hello to you all and tell you a little bit about herself and the work of the Foundation, how she sees it developing over the coming months and years. So over to you, Steph.
Oh, thanks, Shahid, and hello, everybody. It's a real privilege to be the Chief Exec of Leeds Community Foundation and Give Bradford. I know lots of you already. I've been at the Foundation for 4 years, looking after our strategic partnerships, our development of national and local relationships and our grant making and impact work, and also looking after Give Bradford and the development of that. So I feel in some ways very well placed to take up this role, and in other ways, like there are still huge challenges, but brilliant opportunities ahead for us at the Foundation, and I think more importantly for all of you. We have an absolutely fantastic, diverse and vibrant community and social enterprise sector across Leeds and Bradford, and having had a number of leadership roles myself in terms of governance and executive leadership within community organisations at all different scales, and having done a huge amount at the intersection between public and private sector, I know how brilliant what we do is and how valuable that is in place. And I'm absolutely passionate about making sure that we do the best job we can over the next few years to secure income for the sector. And the team will talk to you about some of the programmes we've got, some of the partnerships we've got at the moment that are opening, but to keep those going and to really make the case to local people who have the ability to invest in what you all do, to do that and to do that at scale, because I know the sector is under threat. Things probably feel more challenging than they ever have for a lot of you as you sit there at the moment thinking about funding and thinking about the increased demand. And we're here to do everything we can to support you and to bring that money into communities and to put as few restrictions around that money as we can to make sure that you can do what's needed in communities with it. I suppose, you know, the other thing to say is that we are, as Shahid mentioned, going through a period of change at the Foundation. I know some of you have been involved in some of our consultation and are involved in our community advisory group, looking at our strategy and looking at how we develop. And part of what we need to do is make sure that we are continuing to be an organisation that centres your experiences in what we do. And that sounds like a really obvious thing to say, but I think particularly because the opportunities that are coming from national and statutory sources are reducing. We have to make sure that what we're building in terms of other investment and collaborative investment through philanthropy is doing the job that you need it to do. So hopefully you'll pick up, those of you that don't know us as well, from the team and how we interact, that we want to get to know you, we want to know what your challenges and opportunities are, and we want to make sure that they inform everything that we do. So there'll be lots of opportunities to kind of connect with us beyond this as we talk about our new strategy and how that's developing over the coming years. I suppose the other thing to say is, as a sort of ask really, if you value the work that we do at the foundation and you're able to talk about it in networks that you're in, that really, really helps us. If you don't value the work of the foundation or you have a challenging experience, please come and tell us, because it's only by everybody working together in the city we're going to be able to raise as much money as possible for communities and see that money getting to where it needs to be. So I'll leave it there, but just to flesh that out a little bit more, there's a couple of slides coming up for those of you who are less familiar with the foundation, just to bring to life really what our role in the city is. So we create opportunities by working with partners to make a positive impact, and we do that by generating and investing philanthropic giving. So that's about working with individuals that have the ability to give at scale. It's about working with companies. It's about working with statutory partners and leveraging as much money as possible to come into the sector for local good. Our work goes beyond funding, so we try to make sure that we're able to support community organisations in their development, to remove any barriers that there are to people working equitably in communities and receiving that money. And we're really about making sure that we provide insights to donors so that the way that they give is informed by what you guys are all doing and what you need on the ground. So there's some figures there about what we did last year, just to give you a sense of scale around what that looks like at the moment across the two cities. And our vision is essentially to create cities of opportunity for all. So I think I would articulate our unique role as being the people who can really promote the value of grassroots and local, and make sure that if anybody cares about Leeds or Bradford and they want to do some social good, they know where and how to do that. Some of that will be through funding via us, and some of it will be through the connections that we have and the ability that we have to signpost people to all of the fantastic work that's happening across the city. And hopefully you'll see from our values there that the way we try to do that is to be ambitious, to be passionate, to be open, to be responsive, but also to challenge as well as support. And that feels really, really important at the moment when we know that there are decisions being taken and ways that funding is coming into the sector that does need challenging, frankly, because it doesn't allow you to use it in a way that's going to really make a difference for the people and the causes that you support. So I'm really passionate that we continue to be a sort of challenging voice where it can make a difference for the city as well as a supportive voice. I think that's all I want to say really, but I'm looking forward to meeting those of you that I don't know. And please do, as Shahid said, ask some questions at the end if you have them about our programmes and what we do.
Thanks, Steph. So just to take you through the application process, a little bit about the process and the decision making, and before we get onto the grants. So it's pretty straightforward to apply through our website. You'll find most of the fund criteria and the links to our various online application forms on our open grants page. Do make sure that you read the guidance thoroughly. I can't stress that enough, and check that you are eligible before applying to us. We also now have an eligibility checker on our website where you can double check, especially if it's your very first application to us. You'll need to be concise on your form as well. We do have word limits on most of the questions on the form. The good news is that you can save your application as a draft and come back to it if you can't complete it in one sitting, and that's totally fine. And obviously you can submit it when you're ready, ahead of the fund deadline, of course. If you're unclear about anything, you can, when you get to completing the form, do come and talk to us about it. You can give us a call, drop us an email, and we'll try and help as much as we can. And once you do submit, you'll get a confirmation of receipt, and your form then goes for assessment to one of the team. So moving on to the standard eligibility criteria, these are apply across all our programs. Some funds also have some additional project criteria that you will also need to meet as well. But essentially, you do need to be a not-for-profit organisation or a social enterprise with the following things in place. So you need to have at least 3 trustees, directors, or management committee members who are independent and unrelated. None of them should be related, and also not having more than 50% control over the organisation as well. A governing document, so that's basically the rules of how your organisation is run, how the decisions are made, a constitution or a memorandum of articles. Please check in terms of the eligibility in regards to incorporation and registration as well on the criteria document, because that can be different on each fund as well. A bank or building society account in the name of your organization with a minimum of 2 unrelated check signatories. We'll need a set of accounts or a record of income and expenditure for your group, just to kind of give us a sense that you know how to manage money and you have sound plans in place. If you're a new group, you can provide a bank statement and a project budget. If your project also involves working with children or vulnerable adults, you'll also need to provide us with a safeguarding policy as well. And in terms of decision making, for the vast majority of our funds, we convene an independent grants panel to make the decisions on the grants, which have been assessed by our team. We don't make decisions on most of the grants that we have. We do the assessment and then provide the assessments in the form of panel papers to the panel to make that decision. The only exception to that is our Microgrants program, which Laurie will tell you a little bit about later on, which runs every quarter, where due to the quick turnaround and operational reasons, we convene an internal staff panel drawn from across the organization. And that's to kind of provide exposure to grant making to staff who aren't part of our grant making team. But the panels are usually made up of funders, partners, community reps with lived experience of the particular issue or theme being considered. And it's usually chaired by myself or another manager, and the program officers attend as well, and they take minutes and respond to any queries that panel members might have about particular applications. Decisions are taken through majority voting and consensus of the panel. They usually provide some insight and feedback on the applications, and this is then shared with the applicants when we get around to communicating the decisions to them as well. And then in terms of funding tips, so we thought it might be useful to run through some useful top tips and things to consider when you are about to apply for funding and completing an application form. I think the key thing about this is with any funder, not just Leeds Community Foundation, is to kind of build that relationship with the funder and build the trust. So do come and speak to us. If you're unsure about anything, drop us an email or ring us, ask questions, get clarification on anything that you're not completely 100% about. When answering the questions, try and avoid jargon and acronyms, or at least try and explain them. Don't assume that the assessor will know what you're talking about. Try to be concise and specific in your responses as well. I would always find that using simple language is always better when trying to get your point across and being understood. So, and again, as I mentioned before, do read the criteria and guidance thoroughly. Have a look on the website, see if there's examples of the types of projects that have been funded in the past. It might give you an idea of what's likely to be funded. It's always a good idea to do some market research as well. You know, what else is being delivered in your area? What makes your particular project unique? What value does it add in addressing the issue that you're tackling through the activity that you're proposing? A clear budget is always something that we welcome, one that is broken down in as much detail as possible, and also matches with the activity that you're hoping to deliver as well. And that gives us, as a funder, confidence that you've really thought about the project and what you need to make it happen. And don't just tell us about, you know, what you do. Tell us about the difference that you're making. Ask yourself, so what? You know, be mindful of the outcomes and impact that you're wanting to achieve. You know, is it good value for money in terms of what you're proposing? And also, if it's sometimes there's a multi-year project, so if it's a multi-year project, ensure that you include things like inflation, cost of living in your budget for things like staffing costs, rent, and so on. This will just make your activity future-proof as possible. And also, if you include match funding in your total project costs, do tell us about this. Sometimes people just don't mention it. You know, how much is it? From where are you expecting to receive it? When might you expect to hear if you've just applied? Has it been secured, or is it at application stage? That's all important information that we as a funder need to know. And what happens if you don't secure the match funding as well? That would be useful information. If you haven't applied recently in the last year or so and not submitted supporting documents already, so things like accounts, constitution, policies, do ensure that you do that, please. We're unable to assess an application if the information is missing. and it could mean that your application is ineligible as a result. And lastly, always submit any monitoring reports on time and be honest. We want to know what went well, but also, what didn't go to plan. What's important is, what did you learn from running the activity? If you run into problems while you're delivering and need to request an extension or change your budget, do get in touch with us as soon as possible. It's all about building that trust and relationship with the funder, as I mentioned earlier. Now I'm going to hand over to Alex, who's going to take you through some of the current grant programs that are open.
Thanks, Shahed. Yep, so I'm running through the next two programs. The first one is Climate Action Leeds Community Small Grants. So these are grant sizes are up to £5,000 for 12 months. The fund is looking to support projects and activities that reduce carbon, are nature friendly, and promote kind of neighbourhood-based climate action. Examples of projects could be feasibility studies around green energy for community buildings, repair and recycle hub, and community gardens. Applications are welcome from groups with an income of under 150,000 of the last financial year. And those have been previously successful in receiving a climate action small grant or a microgrant must have their project finished and all the reporting in before applying again. This program as well is a little bit different to other programs that we run. So there's a two-stage application process. The first is the written application that will be assessed for eligibility. And then if it is eligible, you move to the second stage where you'll be invited to give a brief pitch on the idea at an in-person event. We're looking to do this week commencing the 22nd of April. And as I said, if you are eligible, you will receive an email from us to let you know what the time of the event and where it is. And all the decisions around which projects get funded will be made at that event through a public participatory panel. So as I said, this grant is currently open and is closing on the 28th of Feb at 12 noon. Thank you. So the next one is the suicide prevention grants. So these are we've got small and large grants. So the small ones are up to £10,000 for 12 months of work, and the large grants is between 10 and 25,000 for 12 to 24 months of work. So at the moment, it's just for Leeds and it's not open yet, and we're still confirming the deadline. But based on last year's criteria, the fund is looking to support people who are at risk of suicide. This can be through developing social activities determined by local participants in areas where outreach work and activities are less. And this is hopefully to reduce kind of social isolation within communities that have a higher risk of suicide. It's also around kind of local community engagement and participation. So the time.
I think have we lost Alex? Hi, I think we've lost Alex. Alex, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I couldn't hear you for a bit. No.
Am I back? Sorry, my internet might be a bit dodgy.
Go on, carry on.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I don't know where I got up to.
Just start again.
Okay. Was it just suicide prevention? Apologies.
Yes.
Okay, I will go back to the start. So there's small grants and large grants, but 10,000 for the small grants for 12 months of work, 10 to 25,000 for large grants for 12 to 24 months. We haven't finalized the criteria yet, so we don't know when it's necessarily going to be opening or closing, but based on last year's criteria, it's looking to support people that have a higher risk of suicide. This can be through social activities determined by local participants in areas where there aren't as many outreach or activity work happening, and it's to reduce social isolation in those who have a higher risk of suicide. The types of activities that can be funded through the small grants could be pilot projects supporting smaller groups, small-scale research and market testing. And for the large grants, it's about the empowerment of local people, widening access to local services that are already running, and developing new technologies or innovative ways of connecting socially isolated people together. Hopefully everyone got that. I apologize.
Yeah, got that. Thanks. Okay, so it's back to me. So this is our brand new flagship partnership program with the Bradford 2025 City of Culture team. So it's the Creative Communities Fund. Grants of up to 15,000 are available for community-led creative and cultural activities. The program launches in the first week of March. There's also a specific online briefing for this program, actually, which is taking place on the 7th of February at 11 a.m., where you can get more detail and ask further questions on any ideas that you might have. Do sign up for this, by the way. I think we've already got about 100 people already signed up, but yeah, it's on the 7th of February at 11 a.m. It has to be led by a community organization. That's the key kind of criteria, but obviously the community organization can work with other artists and creatives to undertake the activity, which engages communities in Bradford, celebrating its diversity and rich culture. So we've got a couple of examples there of the type of activity. So it's kind of arts in its broadest sense. So we're talking about creative and cultural activity as opposed to art. So it could be, for example, a community centre working with facilitators to undertake creative writing or poetry workshops, which might then lead on to a series of multilingual events in the community, or a youth organisation putting on a range of creative activities or taster session, leading the young people to go on and create a series of short films, celebrating their experience of diversity in the city. And the Lunch Club, so this is the Leeds programme, ongoing annual grant programme funded by Leeds City Council, which supports around 70 to 80 lunch clubs every year across the city of Leeds. The fund will open at the end of February and can provide funding for lunch club provision and also home delivery services for those unable to get out and attend the sessions. Funding for each club is actually calculated based on a pre-existing formula, so there's no kind of grant size as such. So the formula takes into account things like the number of people attending your sessions, how many sessions you run in the year, and who your participants are. But typically, we'd expect any lunch club to be running at least 40 sessions a year with a minimum of 10 people. Okay, so I'll pass over to Laurie.
Hi everyone. So starting off with the Bradford Fund Microgrants, we have a round currently open, not for very much longer. As you can see there, it closes on the 31st of this month. So all of our microgrants, we have two programs, this one for Bradford and the other one for Leeds. And by that, we do mean within the city council areas. So do check which council the area that you're working in is under. It doesn't always align up to the postcodes, just something to note. And these are really open funds. It's up to £2,500. The fund is primarily aimed at smaller, newer, emerging organisations, essentially those who don't necessarily have as much recourse to other funds because they're smaller, potentially volunteer-led, things like that. And fundamentally, it's just activity that will support your communities. We know that you're the experts in what that means. So there aren't specific activities that this covers. As long as you can demonstrate that in your application, it will be eligible. And you can see there's a couple of different examples, but that really is up to you to tell us. And then these are the Leeds Fund Microgrants, which are just exactly the same thing, but for the Leeds City Council area. So there's a round open for that as well, also ending on the 31st. And there will be another round of those coming in April 2024. And then I think the last programme that we're going to talk about today is something called Addressing Mental Health Inequalities in Minority Ethnic Groups. We have previously run this programme a few years ago, so you might remember it from then. And yeah, does what it says on the tin. Is for activities within Leeds that are looking to support racially minoritized communities with their mental health. That's in a variety of different ways. The grants are up to from 2,500 to 7,500, opening quite shortly, a couple of weeks, and that'll be open for around 5 weeks. So this round is specifically targeted at young people in that kind of transition age group, 16 to 25, who are struggling with their mental health for any reason, or at risk of struggling with their mental health specifically. So as you can see there are a few primary themes for this fund: capacity building for organisations that are already supporting people in this area, providing individual or group mental health support. We've previously funded peer support groups as well as kind of creative interventions, And then that final one there is creative approaches or safe, trusted spaces to engage with young people and their families in that space. So yeah.
Okay, over for any questions.
I think some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm just I've been responding to them. The question around microgrants and lunch clubs, which I've replied to.
Just one very simple question. Will you be sending us details of your organisation and funding through to our emails? Will you be emailing them to us? Because there's a lot of information there, but I'd like to study it.
I believe a recording of the webinar will be sent to your email that you registered with.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a question from Joe. Yes, if you're looking at a creative freelancer, you'd need to apply through a community organization, a not-for-profit organization. Katrina is saying, hi, is there a certain amount allocated for each district, or is it whoever applies first? All grants have been issued. There's obviously a pot size for each fund, and that depends on the donor in terms of how much they make available. But the panel then decides which ones get funded. Typically, our funds tend to be oversubscribed. At the moment, most of our funds are 4 and 5 times oversubscribed. So we're not able to fund every application that is submitted. Mahbub, you got a hand up?
Yes, I have. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's my question is not directly related to the kind of range of funding that's potentially available. It's more to do with like just a very quick example of a small community group or a small charity that's predominantly working volunteer led, and we get small bits of funding just to keep our projects, mainly to do with keeping young people off the street, sports related, keep the project going. But we'd like to kind of build our capacity and get better with budgets and forecasting. And I just wondered, is there any capacity within this, for us to build that relationship with LCF and work up towards this kind of quality assurance kind of thing, or checklist where we're in a position to make ourselves more what's the word, resilient or prepared for future years?
Yeah, it's a good question, Mahbub. I mean, we do get that quite a lot, particularly on our microgrants program, which Laurie manages. Obviously, as a grant maker, that's not our area of expertise, and we obviously have a pretty small team to be able to kind of support groups with things like governance and accounts and all that kind of stuff. But what we do have is an existing strong relationship with Voluntary Action Leeds, and also in Bradford, we work quite closely with Community Action Bradford District, Sue Nevison, and we are able to kind of refer people on. Sometimes we identify as part of the assessment process that the safeguarding policy isn't quite right, or their accounts aren't quite right, or they need to register as a charity or whatever. And we do have good connections and make referrals to those organizations to work alongside some of those people, some of those groups that you mentioned that need to become more kind of resilient and organized. So we do that, but we don't do it directly at the moment.
Thank you.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, sorry.
Hi, sorry.
Yes, Sue, go on.
Sue, hi. Hello, I'm Sue Dyde. I'm co-director of Bradford Bells Kick. We're a kind of a bit of a hybrid, because we're kind of a mix of professional and community cast, with a group of professional facilitators co-directing, sort of doing the organisational side, but the community are very involved with developing the programme and making choices about what we do and where. And so I'm not quite sure where if we would fit in. And certainly we think this is our 5th year. So I'm not sure if we'd fit into the microgrants criteria at all. That would be the only one we could be looking at. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Not certainly not volunteer led.
Yeah, I mean, we'd have to look at the criteria. I mean, there's certain specific criteria with the microgrants around income, for example. So I don't know if your annual income is like more than £75,000 a year.
Definitely not.
Yeah, so that would fit, I think. Obviously, we'd have to look at closely at your governing document and how you're set up, and make sure that you're eligible in terms of the standard eligibility criteria that I went through earlier. But there's no reason why you can't apply if you're a not-for-profit organisation.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Esther, you got your hand up.
Hi, I have a question about eligibility. So I'm calling from World Jewish Relief, and we are a registered charity. We're based in London, but we deliver a lot of work with women refugees with our partners in Leeds and Bradford. So our partners are based in Leeds and Bradford, and they're delivering the project, and we're involved in the monitoring and evaluation, and also designing and conceiving the program. Would we be eligible for your grants based on like this partnership?
It kind of varies from fund to fund. Some funders will insist that you have to be based in the city. Others, they look for a kind of demonstrable link or a kind of track record of work in the area, or as long as the beneficiaries and the activities taking place in the city, then that's fine. But it does tend to vary, so you'd have to look at the criteria and see what it says.
Thank you. This is very helpful.
Okay. Any others?
Yes, I'm chairperson of Leeds Combined Arts, and I've had contact with the Facebook if you want to know more what we do.
Okay.
We're looking for a heritage fund at the moment, but we don't know where we are with that. Would it be possible? We're Leeds based, by the way.
Yeah.
Would it be possible, do you think, to apply for a grant of about £7,000 to £8,000 if we don't get the heritage fund? Now, I've got all the administrators. In one sense, I was quite encouraged by what was said here, because it's clear that with all the administrative criteria into place, all the stuff you mentioned at the moment, I could tick.
Yeah.
And it took months to get that sorted out, but that's done. But I just wanted to know whether a sort of combined arts group like us could be entitled to a grant of about several £1,000s, £7,000 to £8,000.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you identify one of the funds that's currently open. I mean, funds open and close at different times, and they all have kind of different criteria aimed at different themes. Some are aimed at young people's activities, some are arts, some are older people, some are to do with climate, etc. So as long as it kind of fits within an open program in terms of what you're hoping to do, then there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to apply.
Yeah, well, we've sorted out all our mission, our purpose. Our policy was to get all the paperwork and admin stuff sorted out before we apply for it. And and we're now going through the Heritage Fund. I assume if we got the Heritage Fund, that would exclude getting grants from you.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no problem.
Okay, then. Thank you very much for your information.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. Any other questions? I mean, by all means, if there are any other questions later on, you can always ring us, drop us an email to our kind of grants@leedscf.org.uk email address, and we'll be able to help out. But
there's a few in the chat that we've not come to. I'm happy to read them out.
Go for it.
So Anne says, does the lunch club funding support new lunch clubs? They're exploring starting a lunch club, but they wouldn't know how many people they'd have per session and things like that. So they can apply as a new lunch club.
As a new lunch club, they can apply, and obviously you put estimated numbers in there, based on what you think you're likely to get in terms of number of people attending and things like that. So it can be a new lunch club as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Vicky has said if we have any idea of other funding pots available outside of Leeds Community Foundation. and whether, you know, we could arrange a meeting or something like that. I'm not sure, Shahed, if you've got a couple of suggestions of where people can look for other funding.
There's our resource page, which has links to other kind of portals and things like that, like Doing Good Leeds, and like in Bradford, there's CNET, and you know, the city council. Obviously, Leeds City Council also has lots of funding available. So, but if there's anything specific that you're looking for, do get in touch, and I'll see if I know any funders in that area.
Great, thank you, Shahed. And one more that I can see, Francesca from Otley Lido campaign. How do we keep a watching eye on funds coming up? So I think I'll take this one as our comms person. So we do actually have funding notification emails, so you can sign up to our email list and we will email you every single time a fund opens. You can choose to select Leeds, you can choose to select Bradford, or you can select both. That link to sign up to those will be included in the email that you receive later on this week after the session. So you'll be alerted every single time a fund opens for applications if you sign up there. I think that's everything from the chat. I think, Shahed, I'll leave you to pick up those couple of that come up.
Paul, hi, Paul, always a pleasure.
Hello, Shade, how are you? You all right?
I'm good. Yes, I'm good.
Good, man. Just a couple of things. Mahbub seems to have left the conversation. I can't see that he's here, but I was going to mention that there's an organisation called Community Matters, which is led by John Wilson.
Yes.
Which is based in Leeds, and it offers lots of free kind of governance advice, training relating to the matters that Mahbub raised. So obviously, I'm very happy for you to pass on the emails, and also for Richard's benefit. My background's in museums and the arts anyway. So I'm very happy to have a conversation with you offline about other potential funding streams if you'd like to. So
yes, I would.
That's my bit.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks.
Shall I leave you my email?
Yeah, I'll send you the email, no problem at all, Richard.
Send me an email. Have you got my email? Yeah. Hello.
Okay. Thank you. Jazz, got your hand up.
Yeah, hiya, Shane. I'm just going to add to that comment regarding other funds and some of the organisations on the call. It'd be worth speaking to their local SME growth managers, so that they're linked to the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. Now, it'll be dependent on the criteria for some of those funding programmes, whether, you know, there's part funding in there or there's fully funded programs, and you know, it depends on the legal composition of the organizations that are applying. But it's definitely worth speaking to your local SME growth managers as well.
Fantastic, thank you. That's great. You guys are putting suggestions forward as well and helping each other. That's all. We want to see more of that. Fabulous. Any others? Lee, you said you can't put your hand up, but you got a question.
Yeah, hiya. So I work for St Vincent's Centre in Leeds. So obviously we're quite a big centre with a big income to meet, but we're thinking about the climate action grant through our depot, which is like a separate section. Would we be able to apply with us being over the 150 or not?
If it's over if it doesn't meet the criteria, then unfortunately not. But you can maybe, if you get in touch with Alex and have a chat about it, we'll be able to kind of take that offline.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Is that all right? Brilliant.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Thank you. All right. I think we're done, maybe. Okay, so we will be sharing the recording as well. So, and like I say, if people do still have other questions, then by all means get in touch and we'll do our best to assist. But yeah, thanks so much for attending and have a good rest of your week.